Hi, and welcome to Patisserie Valerie Latte Art 101. We're going to be making the heart pattern today. Firstly, what we're going to need is a well-extracted espresso shot. For that, we're going to need 14 grams of our Bewley's coffee that we use here at Patisserie Valerie, and ideally we need to extract that over between 22 and 25 seconds. Now, you want to make sure that your grinder and your espresso machine's been set up so that after the extraction we get 60 milliliters of coffee. Now, if your grind is too coarse, the water is going to pour out too quickly, you're not going to get to those 22-25 seconds, and you're not going to have that volume of coffee that we're looking for. Alternatively, if your grind is too fine or you tamp too hard, now the pressure is not going to be enough in the coffee machine, you're just not going to have enough liquid coming through. So you want to get it and set it up just right beforehand. Here's how that works in practice. You take the portafilter, you want to make sure you get it both dry and clean. I prefer using a tea towel, but any brush will do just the same. So you get it clean, get it dry. We get our 14 grams of coffee. Use just your hand just to even the coffee out in the basket of the portafilter. Then we take our tamper, and you want to apply roughly 8 kilos of pressure, but more importantly, you want to make sure that you're tamping it straight down flat, not to get it in an angle. That way coffee is not going to be extracted evenly. So I like to use my fingers just to guide my pressure down. We do that. If there's tiny bits of coffee around the edge of the basket, not a big deal. Then we want to make sure we purge the coffee group. This will lower the temperature in the hot water boiler. Once we put the portafilter in the group, you want to make sure that you press your extraction button straight away, because so long as we keep it in the group, like I mentioned, the temperature there is really quite high, so we don't want to be burning our coffee. So once we put that portafilter in, we want to start extracting. Once that coffee shun's done and ready, we should see a nice crema on top. Now, the next step is steaming the milk. Getting that silky, smooth, frothy milk really is the tricky part and key to all latte art. Firstly, you want to make sure you're using the right size pitcher for the job. I'm going to be using the medium sized pitcher here for this size of latte. Also, you want to make sure you got the right amount of milk. Too little, you're just not going to have enough to fill the cup. Too much, you're just not going to have enough space to stretch your milk and get rid of all the bubbles, and it'll make it more difficult to pour your latte art later on. And I'll walk you through the steaming process next. Now, what we're going to be doing is submerging the steam wand just below the surface of the milk. If it goes above, the milk's just going to go everywhere. You want to make sure the steam wand's submerged first, then we're going to open the tap all the way to get maximum pressure, and we're going to start stretching the milk as soon as possible. This will give us more time to get rid of any excess bubbles later on. Now, by stretching the milk, what I mean by that is we're going to, once the tap is open, we're going to be lowering our pitcher just ever so slightly, just to break that surface of milk. When that happens, you're going to hear that screechy, loud, kind of scratchy sound. Once that happens, you do not want to keep it in that position for very long. You just want to have it for about half a second or so, and then tilt the jug right back up so it doesn't go on for much longer. You do that, repeat that process for a couple more times. Doing that about 3 times, that'll stretch the milk roughly 7 to 10%, and that's exactly what we're looking for our latte milk. For the rest of the time, while we're heating the milk, we're going to be tilting the jug just ever so slightly. That will give us nice swirly motion around the pitcher, and that will get rid of any excess bubbles that I was talking about earlier. Now you want to make sure you're cleaning the steam wand right after you've been using it, as well as purging it, so that we keep it nice and clean throughout the day. Also, check the temperature or be using the thermometer as you're steaming the milk right away. We're looking for that between 60 and 70 degrees for the ideal latte temperature. If there's any excess bubbles on top of the milk, what you can always do is just tap the jug just ever so slightly, but more importantly, give it a good swirl. Just swirl that milk, let the froth and the milk mix up, and that will bring that glossy, silky milk I was talking about to the very top, and that's exactly what we need for our latte art. Now that we have our espresso shot and we have our steamed milk, all that's left is pouring it, creating that beautiful latte art. Now, the froth sits on top of the milk in the pitcher, and if we pour it too quickly, it's just gonna fall right into the cup. We wanna leave that for later on, pouring process at the very end, because that froth is what creates that latte art. Now, in order to get the milk out first, you wanna maybe bring the jug just slightly above the cup and pour a little slower at first. That will sink the milk below the coffee creamer, bring that creamer higher to the top, and then we'll be left with mostly just froth at the very end. Once the coffee cup's about 2/3 full, we're going to be lowering the jug closer to our cup and just start wiggling out that froth, and that's what's going to create that latte art. Now, in order to create that heart we're doing today, all we need is a blob of froth in the center of our coffee cup, and at the very end we're just going to pull through, creating that tail of a heart on one end and a dip at the other end of that blob, and that's all a heart is when it comes to latte art. And here's how it works in practice. And here's that heart showing up in other latte art patterns.